So last week, I told you that I was stepping away from doing the rigs and moving towards simpler animations, simpler exercises, just to get my skills back up. If you watched the video last week, you saw me do the jumping cubes. They were bouncing up and down. Didn't turn out terrible, but after going back and reviewing them a couple of times, there was definitely issues with the timing. So I worked on an exercise this week, and I mentioned it before about moving a dot around the screen, speeding up and slowing down. It was a great exercise in learning timing. One I focused on this week. That whole thing sucked. We're going to start that over. Last week, I told you I was stepping away from working on the complex character rigs and working on simpler exercises. Last week, I did the jumping cube. After reviewing those, I noticed that the timing was just a little off. So I spent this week working on timing. I was doing a dot animation, moving a dot around the screen and getting used to it, speeding up and slowing down. Rather than doing a lot of tweening to figure this out like I did in previous exercises, this week I spent time doing straight ahead animations. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at what I did. You can see in the video, instead of doing a rig, I literally just painted a dot and I moved it around the screen, speeding it up and slowing it down. As I was turning, I brought it in, slowed it down, and then speeded it up to another location, moving it back and forth, literally just doing frame by frame animation. The idea behind this is just to get used to basic timing, how things move when they're going fast or slow. This is the difference between your character speed walking or your character strolling. And I wanted to get myself comfortable with this method, so I spent quite a little time working on it this week. And if you hang on a second, I'll show you the one of the end results I had. Did a number of these exercises, and then I moved to a more complex version of it where I had the same dot moving around the screen, but instead of having the dot in the middle, I put a blob around it. The idea behind this is as I move the dot around the screen, that blob would have to stretch away from it as it's speeding up, or as the dot slowed down and moved, the blob would flow around it. The idea is to get used to how things fluidly move, working on squash and stretch and follow through. This is just a good idea as muscles are moving or hair is moving, anything flowing around. You're going to want to make sure as it speeds up and slows down that any objects that are connected to it are going to be working along with it. And you can see in this video as I'm setting it up how I'm moving around. I'm watching a lot of the onion skinning, seeing where I think it's going to be moving. I did a number of these exercises, and the one I'm working on here, at the end of this, I will show you the end result. As a final exercise, very similar, but instead of having a blob around an object, it had a dot and a second dot, and they were tethered together. I moved the first dot around the screen and then wanted to see where the second dot would end up as they were tethered together. This is a really good exercise. Think in terms of Eep and Doodle as they're moving them around, what's going to happen to their tails or maybe their ears moving around. Anytime you have a character like with hair, with clothes, as they move, if they move really quickly and stop, their clothes is going to flow through and follow behind them. This is just a really good exercise to get used to this. Unfortunately, I forgot to hit record when I was working on this exercise here. But at the end, when I realized what I did hit record to show you some of the onion skinning as I was looking and checking my placement is where I thought it should be. When I get done with this, I will show you a video of the end result of it. In all of these sketches, I really wasn't worried about making high quality. It was just about a quick exercise, moving a dot around and moving objects around together and seeing how they interact with each other. The idea is that this can be very loose, very sloppy. It's just kind of getting your muscle memory going on timing and making sure everything is working together. Again, just really loose, really simple, no detail whatsoever. Just after having done this a couple times during the week, I will probably start working these into like a pre-exercise before I do any animation, just to get my muscle memory kicked back up before every time I sit down and animate. It's just a lot of fun. I'll try to link below where I got the exercises from. It's another animator on YouTube. Uh, he was the same one that introduced the jelly jump from last week. I will probably be moving into a final exercise he did where we're morphing objects together. Uh, Eventually, I'm also going to work on the same dot moving around, but using depth, getting larger or smaller, and we can see how that's going to interact. Probably be doing that this week. But uh, it was just a simple week this week. Again, I was just getting used to using the Adobe Animate software and getting used to the process, but mostly getting myself used to timing and squash and stress with that timing. Just practice, practice, practice. It may not be overly exciting, but I think it's a necessary step in the journey, and that's what it's all for. You guys can leave a comment below. I would love to hear what exercises you guys use when you're getting ready to animate, what exercise you do to keep your muscle memory going. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like the video, subscribe. I know everybody asks, but it really does help. See you guys next week.